Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at that phrase found in the Gospel of Luke, no room in the inn. The passage begins, I'm going to pick up in Luke chapter 2 and verse 4, where there's Joseph. He also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family of David. Notice the reason that he was going there is because he had family there. Verse 5, in order to register along with Mary, who was engaged to him and was with child. So the story is set up as this husband and would eventual wife. They're not married yet. They're just engaged. They're betrothed, and they're going from Nazareth all the way down to Bethlehem, about a 70-mile trip as the crow flies. They weren't crows, so that would be a little bit longer. It's a mountainous area. Verse 6, while they were there, the days were completed for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him in cloths and laid him in a manger because, and here's the phrase we want to look at, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now, there's a Greek word for inn. It's the Greek word pandokion. A pandokion, it's actually a compound word. Pan is the word for all, like if we talk about the Pan American, used to be what was it, an airlines. It meant that they flew all over the Americas. And then dekomai is the Greek word, just means to receive. So you put that together, and it was sort of a place that receives everyone. And that word is used later on in Luke chapter 10 when Jesus is telling the story of the Good Samaritan. And you remember how the Samaritan finds this man who had been beaten and left for dead and takes him to an inn, a pandokion, a place that received everybody. And he pays the innkeeper, the pandokias, a certain amount of coins to take care of this man. It's a great story. However, that's not the word that is used here. Instead, the word here is a kataluma. It's a different word used, and it's been translated in, and that might not be the best translation because Luke uses this word later on in his gospel account as well, and he uses it in Luke chapter 22 and verse 11 when Jesus is going to have his Last Supper, and he instructs his disciples to go and go to a certain person's home, and there they are to say, the master has need of your guest room, your upper room, your guest room, and there is where the Last Supper is going to take place. Now, that's the same term that's used here by Luke, so the same author, here in Luke chapter 2 and verse 7. No room for them in the inn, no room for them in the guest room. And so to get the point here, I think we have to look a bit at the way they lived in the first century, especially a sort of a common household in the first century. We have an artist's conception. We're going to actually look at a reconstruction in just a moment, where people would often have a sort of a two-story home, and down below you'd have the kitchen and a little bit of a courtyard. This is a place where you'd keep the animals. We'll come back to that in a moment. And then you would go upstairs and you'd have the living quarters. And if that's where if you had guests, they would come to stay there. So this was where you would have the guest room. And in the story of the birth of Jesus, Joseph comes here. Where's he going to stay? Not in an inn, not in a hotel, but he's going to stay with family because he has family in Bethlehem. That's why he's coming here, because he's of the family. His family is from Bethlehem, and so he comes there to stay with family. But apparently, so do a lot of other members of the family, and they've all gathered together, and the guest room, the upstairs area, is taken. And so instead of being here in the upstairs room, the place where they would eat the meals, the place where the family would spend the bulk of their leisure time, instead of being here, they're going to go downstairs. look at a reproduction of that. You notice you can still see the upstairs, but downstairs is where you'd do the cooking, you'd have the kitchen, and in most regular homes, not a rich person's home, but most regular homes, this is also where you would keep the animals. And if you're keeping animals there, then you're going to have the things that keep the animals, like a manger. Now, we'll speak in another class about mangers and the implications there. But here, the baby Jesus would be placed, not outside in a barn, but in the downstairs area, the place where you would find a manger. And this brings up a question. How are we to take this, and what application should we place on it? Now, I don't want to spiritualize this too much, but I think we can ask the question: is there a significance to him being laid not in the place of the guest room, but down in the manger? There's a place where Jesus, and remember the upper guest room, that's the place where they would eat the meals. There's a place in Revelation chapter 3 where Jesus is speaking to one of the churches and he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." Now, he doesn't mention the word guest room there, but he says, "If you'll open the door, I will come in and eat with you." You see, when he speaks about eating with you, that's guest room language. And so there's a sense in which he's giving an invitation to come and eat that is in contrast with the situation into which he was born, not brought into the guest room, but laid in a manger. What does your guest room look like? Is Jesus a part of your life? Has he been invited in? Not just as a guest, but really to take charge. And you'll find that when you do that, he not only comes to the meal, he is the meal because he has given his own body and blood that you might be nourished forever.